That was like weirdly part of a thing. And now we're both here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the
Just
Hangout.
popped in.
Yeah. So let me give everybody updates on what's going on. I was gone this weekend to DebateCon 2, Electric Boogaloo in the Dallas area. And I sat down and had a conversation with Destiny about bodily autonomy argument with regard to abortion. And then I debated a Muslim, Kenny Bomer, about is Islam true? And both those debates are up, or discussions and debates are up at Modern Day Debates. And yeah, I'm not going into those at all. That was originally the plan, was to just talk about those types of things and tell you what's going on, about how I got sick, and then how I went to a reptile convention, and that how we won a free snake, and then we came back and we had to deal with snake mites and stuff. But all that's kind of set aside. I'm going to stick with the debate thing for just a second, though, because during the debate, and I'll mention this in the review, my opponent, in his opening remarks, decided to toss in a little extra. He's supposed to be defending the claim Islam is true. But in the midst of that opening, he included a little jab. He handed me a free copy of his book, which is Your Right to Identify, My Right to Disagree, or whatever, as if anybody was challenging a right to disagree. It's about how you're going to treat people is the issue. But he also decided to throw in a dig in against the trans community by talking about how there were males pretending to be females, and that the truth is in the DNA. And I just wanted to ask Kenny a question, which is, am I a man? Because I guarantee you, Kenny would have said yes. And then I would have said, really? When did you get a look at my DNA? Because it's patently absurd. And also, it has absolutely nothing at all to do with the subject. Is Islam true? Gender identity, all of those things are irrelevant to whether or not Islam is true, which means in his opening remarks, in his time-limited opening remarks, it was so critical and so important for him to let people know that he was not going to be tolerating any trans rights issues or trans stuff like that. I did not respond to this during the debate because I figured he was just trying to throw me off my game or whatever else. And I just let it slide and stuck with all the other things in the debate. And then that's when we learned about, on the way home or whatever, we learned about the shooting in Colorado at another LGBTQ nightclub. And that's where we're at today. The attorneys for the shooter, by the way, killed 5 people, injured, I think, 18 others. I don't have the exact number right now. Someone there basically tackled him, took the gun away, and beat him into submission. And he's now in custody. And his lawyers, sorry, I need to change that. Their lawyers have come out and announced that the shooter, or the potential shooter, is non-binary. And that became the news story. And some people were sharing the news saying, oh, it turns out this is a non-binary individual who went in and shot up an LGBTQ club. And sorry, I'm getting messages in the middle of the show, and I forgot to mute my phone. That's my fault. And so there were people who were focused on what the attorneys had to say. Oh, this person's non-binary. This person's non-binary. Well, first of all, and then there were people in the LGBT community who were saying, no, it's not. This is a scam. This is an attempt to get around hate crime prosecution. The truth is, we have no way of knowing currently, and maybe ever, whether or not somebody is or isn't non-binary or trans or anything else, because that is something that they're telling us about their internal identity. But it doesn't matter, because people within the LGBTQIA community can be violent and disturbed, just irrespective of whether or not they're gay, trans, non-binary, whatever. They can also be driven to violence and self-hatred and countless other things like this because of bigotry in the world around them. So is it possible that this shooter wasn't non-binary? Sure. Is it possible that this is an attempt to get around hate crime prosecution? Sure. But what this person did isn't caused by being non-binary. There is no LGBTQIA plus handbook that requires or encourages violence towards others inside or outside of the community. And everybody who's just saying, oh, this is just what the lawyers do, you do not have evidence for that. Stop making shitty arguments. Stop going with your assumptions. The right thing to point out is that it's not relevant whether or not this individual was non-binary until someone demonstrates that their condition, that their position is in fact relevant, that something else contributed to this. There are, though, plenty of doctrines in religions that do encourage bigotry and hatred and violence towards queer people. I listened to a 20-minute interview with the shooter's father. Yes, the father has a drug-addled mind, which he acknowledged. He was previously on I think a TV show called Intervention, talking about that. But he and possibly other issues. I'm not here to diagnose anybody. I'm just going by what he said and what was seemingly obvious. Yes, the shooter's father was a porn star. That's also irrelevant unless you can show that him being a porn star is relevant to this. It's possible. I don't know what kind of porn he did. It's possible that he was gay for pay and that this contributed to his hatred of homosexuals, because he was very proud during this interview to let everyone know that he's a Mormon, and Mormons, we don't truck with being gay. Now, whether or not he's a Mormon, we don't necessarily know how relevant that is, because I would argue that being a cursing, meth using porn star is about as consistent with Mormonism as being gay friendly. And so when he mentions that he's a Mormon, that he's a conservative Republican, that's also not entirely irrelevant, as that particular group is consistently spouting anti-gay rhetoric and anti-gay laws and marginalizing an entire community of people. He's also an MMA fighter who encouraged. Let me pause here because I want this to settle in, because I was going to run a clip and then I decided I didn't want to have to deal with any copyright claims or anything else. It's important. You can go out and just Google Colorado shooter dad interview and you will find the 20-minute interview. He flatly said that he encouraged violence in his child from an early age. And the reason that he encouraged violence in his child at an early age is because with violence, you get instant results and you get what you want if you can fight. Those are pretty close to direct quotes from him. And so he's essentially saying that he taught his child to be violent and to be anti-gay because you get what you want when you can fight, and because with violence, you get instant results. When asked about the guns, he backed off a bit and said, no, I'm only talking about, with these guns, fists, just beat people up, not guns. And evidently he'd heard from his child about a year ago. And for many years before that, he thought that his child had committed suicide, because evidently that's what his ex-wife, the kid's mom, told him. But when the authorities came to him and said, hey, your child was in a gay bar last night, his first thought was, oh my God, why was my kid in a gay bar? He's not gay, is he? Shit, he's not gay. And when they let him know that he killed 5 people and injured many more, while he eventually expressed remorse and noted that it was unfortunate that those people were dead and that he was sorry that those people were dead, his immediate response was, that's tragic, but whew, at least my kid's not gay. This is the parent of the individual accused of shooting up this club. I'll note here that I'm trying to gender his child based on the attorney's claim that this individual is non-binary. But the father didn't seem aware of this at all and constantly referred to their son, referred to them as their son and with he and pronouns. Now, his child may have been gay. We don't know. May have been trans. We don't know. May have been non-binary, may have been a Mormon, may have been a conservative. What we do know is that they were troubled and violent. They were arrested for a bomb threat a year ago, and that we still don't know enough. But 5 people are dead again. Many more are wounded. The shooter's in custody, and the attorneys are claiming that the individual is non-binary, and it's become a distraction because instead of talking about the issue with gun violence in the United States, I downloaded a great graph today showing the number of gun deaths per 100,000 in a variety of different countries. It's it's nothing surprising to anybody who's been paying attention, but this statistic is 36 per 100,000 in the United States, and then it's like in Canada it's zero point 0.5, in Portugal it's 0.5, in Ireland it's 0.4, in Finland it's 0.3, in Italy it's 0.3, in Austria it's 0.2, and continues on down and on down and on down. Um, it's yeah, but instead of having any conversation about that, instead of having any conversation about uh, the bigotry that's been spewed nonstop and the fact that the queer community by and large is constantly under attack, both from the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, who's basically put out a metaphorical hunting license on trans kids, denying them health access and threatening to take them away from their parents and labeling it child abuse, um, to the governor of Florida doing similar things, to legislators all around the country implementing new bills, particularly anti-trans bills, a lot of them, and the rhetoric and violence stepping up on a regular basis. All that happened here is a bunch of people in a town in Colorado decided to go out to a club and have fun. They didn't go out looking for a fight. They didn't go out looking for trouble. They went out to hang out and have fun. And now they're dead. And the rest of the country seems to be focused on, was the shooter non-binary, as if that was relevant. Um, None of the other factors are really being discussed that much. We're just now starting to get information about the father. And after watching an interview with the dad, I can only speculate and imagine how absolutely messed up this shooter's life was for the first 10 years of his life. So much so that they went with their grandparent to change their name legally in order to distance themselves from their father, their violent, hateful, bigoted, Mormon conservative father. Which ones of those are relevant? Which ones aren't? I don't know. But after watching that interview and watching a, a father flatly, repeatedly talk about how at least he's not gay. We don't like gays. We don't like gays. Mormons don't like gays. Conservatives don't like gays. Well, at least he's not gay. At least he's not gay. And that I absolutely, I encouraged violence in him when he was young, but never guns, never guns. Just, just these guns. Raw, manly man. Let me be a manly man. So the father's an MMA fighter. He's a porn star. I wouldn't be surprised to find out there's a lot more going on here, but I don't know. And it's a mistake to speculate. And so what we should be looking at is, here's an individual. His upbringing is not an excuse for anything that he's done. His father, as big of a piece of shit as he clearly is not an excuse for anything that this individual did. That's not the way this works. There may be mitigating circumstances. There may be factors in there that allow us to seek some help. But at the end of the day, a bunch of people are dead. And this whole thing has been spun as if, oh, look, you guys want to, I think it was like Kevin Sorbo or somebody was like, I wonder, since you guys keep talking about how violent Republicans are, when you're going to note, why'd you all go quiet when we found out that the shooter was non-binary? Well, Kevin Sorbo, you unmitigated jackass who's a little fucking piece of shit coward who wouldn't dare call in and actually debate or discuss things with me, despite the fact that we already know. Never mind. We'll just set that aside. The issue here is that there were Republicans who were violent. January 6th was a violent insurrection. People got hurt. People died. That's worth talking about. It's worth investigating. Meanwhile, this individual walked into a club and killed a bunch of people and injured a bunch more. And that's worth talking about too. And that individual is to blame. This wasn't a mob. This wasn't the Republicans. It wasn't the gays. It wasn't the non-binaries. It wasn't the transgenders, or however you like to misuse words. It was an individual. And we don't know the factors that necessarily led to it. There is no excuse for what this person did. But it's funny how you've turned it into a, oh, too cocaine fallacy. Oh, wait, no, I don't know what that is. Let's talk about it. Let's actually address what's going on here. The vicious hatred in the country. I was not going to do a show tonight. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving in the United States. I was going to take tonight off. I think, as a matter of fact, I think I announced last week and maybe Sunday that there wouldn't be a show today. We decided to do a show, and part of it was because I was doing this. Now, to be fair, tonight's guest wasn't invited here specifically for this thing. He's just a fine guest that I love having on, and he'll be working on a new show on this network with Shannon Q. Please welcome my friend Forrest Valkai.
What a somber note to bring me in on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to toss you in with that. It's I don't have an ending for this. I don't have a quippy, and now let's bring in Forrest, because
right.
I'm just
there's no bow to tie on it, dude.
Yeah, I'm just beat.
It's
I'm
it's fucking awful.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn you. I'm going to have to check in on calls and stuff here, but I'm going to turn you loose for any comments and thoughts that you might have on it.
Yeah, I just wanted to just throw in, because it's fucking depraved the way that you look at the Kevin Sorbos and everything of the world, how they're very quick to try to find some other talking point out of this, and it's like, whenever there's a shooting and we're all like, hey, how about gun control? How about, what's going on in the world? Like, let's actually talk about something, helpful. Very quickly, the conversation becomes like, oh, how dare you politicize this and try to make this about something that, blah, blah, blah. Like, but then immediately in this circumstance, like you said, like, oh, well, now they're non-binary and you're not going to call them out for their bullshit. Absolutely, I am. But also, just like all the other times, I'm interested in the root cause. And like, what's actually going on here that could have predicted this, that is building out of this? Like, are we not going to talk about the fact that we have all these politicians spewing this hateful rhetoric, likening being trans, being gay, being non-binary, being anything other than a cisgendered heterosexual person to being a literal pedophile? Yeah. And if you support this community, if you speak up for this community, you're just as bad. The amount of times I get called a groomer because I just advocate for LGBT rights. That's, an incredibly serious thing to call somebody. That's a hell of a word to throw around. I'm sure all the people who are actually victims of actual grooming probably don't like that word being used so flippantly. Like, I know that if I was walking around calling taxation rape, it would probably be pretty fucking disgusting to the people who have actually dealt with that, So, like, when you take something that's so genuinely mundane as having a different sexual orientation or a different gender identity, this is just a different person. I know this is a stupid fallacy, but it blows me away that this is even something that we have to sit here and debate and talk about. We take something that's so genuinely mundane and conflate it with a hideous human rights abuse, a disgusting way to abuse a child. It's no fucking wonder why you have people who are acting this way. Because if you are a good person and you genuinely believe that there is a group of people that are out to harm children and that's their whole job, their whole ideology, that's what they do in society, if you're a good person, you do something about that. So when
Yeah.
you
How
have
gross do you have to
politicians,
be? How gross do you have to be
yeah,
to use that as a prop?
that's what I'm saying. When you have politicians who are playing to people's ignorance and insecurities and spreading these vile lies about what a person is because of who they love or how they identify, and just telling these insane and hideous fucking like comparisons, like it it's absolutely no fucking wonder why people would behave this way, why people go out of their way to be violent and evil and hurtful, because it's the same thing as you brought up the insurrection. If you genuinely believe, if you are told day in and day out that the government is being overthrown and that you're having your rights stripped away, if you're a good person, you would go do something about that. That's what you are trained to do in this country, is to use your hands to fight to your knife, to fight to your sidearm, to fight to your rifle, to fight to freedom, and skip steps wherever you can. This is the rhetoric that we put on kids. So when you tell people on a fucking major news network and out of a politician's mouth that this shit's happening, it doesn't matter that it's a lie. The people who are indoctrinated in this stuff are going to roll with it. So when you have these same people on these same platforms spreading these fucking hateful things, and then we are all actually fucking surprised, like, yeah, no, turns out this guy picked up a weapon and did something insane. And then all these people have to backpedal and say, oh, I never said that. I never, I never thought that it would be this. I never really advocated. I wasn't talking about those guns, or then they fix some other fucking talking point. Well, he's non-binary, so you can't say anything anymore because now he's in your camp. He's one of you people. I could go on a long tangent. I know this isn't my show. I go on a long tangent about the neuroscience of it and about like how this plays out in the brain. Well,
it can be your show. Anytime I want to take a night off, you can just come in and take over the show. It's fine.
Thank you. Hit me up. But like, if you want to talk about it later on as we get, I don't want to take up too much time, but as we progress, if you want, there's actually some really cool connections in psychological and neuroscientific research that goes along with this, and it's worth talking about, especially on a thing where people who are hopefully educated and skeptical are calling in to watch. So anyway, that's all from me.
I'd be happy to talk about that, but also let's see what people who are waiting here potentially might want to talk about as well. So if you want for us to talk about that, you can. By the way, we're going to read every super chat over $10, just like we normally do. There's a number of announcements, which I'm probably going to make several times tonight to just to make sure. And so the first is we're launching new ways to support the channel in the interest of expanding both programming and exposure. Many of you have asked for a podcast version. Like every day, every other day, somebody messaged me, is like, where do I find your podcast? I'm like, it's not a podcast, it's a YouTube show. It could be a podcast. We're working on it. But yeah, unfortunately, right now, the way things are is that changing it to a pod or adding a podcast, changing it to a podcast in that sense, it requires quite a bit. And so since many of you asked for a podcast version of these shows, we've launched a Patreon, which will both support the ongoing productions at the line and give us the resources needed to produce our shows in the podcast form. And you can also become a channel member on YouTube, which will allow you to bypass slow mode. Both the Patreon and the channel memberships have tiers, which support specific shows or the channel at large. So, if you despise me, but you love Forrest and Shannon, there's a way to support at that level. If you love me and you hate Forrest and Shannon, what the fuck's wrong with you? But you can do that too. And then there's the support for the whole channel. If you don't like Jimmy, I don't know what to tell you, because I'm pretty sure Jimmy's in on it at every level. Just know
trying to oust him.
I just take Jimmy's money when he's not looking by getting him to come help me do stuff around here. It's the easiest way to do it.
You're giving the illusion
whoever runs
that Jimmy
the
has
line
money.
should really get.
Yeah.
Whoever
as
runs
long as
the
I'm
line
not giving the
really
illusion that I have
Jimmy.
money, because dead broke. We have calls, and I want to, this one thing about the Line Network that was promised from the get-go that we always do is we take live calls. And while I'm happy to take calls about the subject at hand, we are not going to be constrained by that as well. So I'm just going to take calls from whoever is ready here today. And starting off in Ontario, we have Michael. Pronouns are he or him. How you doing, Michael? Welcome.
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you, Forrest? How are you, Matt?
I'm live.
Doing awesome, man.
What's going on?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I guess the thing that was most concerning to me, I guess it sort of does tie into the skepticism aspect of it, but I'm really worried about the combination of a number of these Christian evangelical groups believing, of course, the doomsday scenarios, and many of them Jehovah Witnesses, of course, on a rush again because they've lost a lot of money during COVID, so they're trying to push the end times of end times. And it's pushing into, of course, the political arena now, and of course, it's already done that in the science arena. And it seems to be a little overwhelming at this point, and I'm legitimately worried. And my career is in advertising, so I know the power of persuasion. And I think we're failing on one side and being ruled by a bullshit story on the other. In short.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, but isn't it your fault?
Yes, I do apologize. Please forgive me. We can talk about that later, but
nah, we're all going to advertise something at some point. But what we learned in advertising is the value of propaganda and fallacies, that the emotional appeals and the fallacious appeals. There's a reason we stick people in a lab coat and say 9 out of 10 dentists recommend, is because it works, or it used to. The world is changing. Yeah. I remember I'm a little older, and when I've mentioned it before, when I was a kid, science was like, if you were out and about, it's like, what new thing has science come up with? And oh no, this isn't just some wishful thinking or whatever else. This is science. Here's the study. Here's this. And if you told somebody you were going to be a scientist, or that you got information from a scientist, that carried some weight. It probably carried more weight than it should have, and it probably encouraged some argument from authority fallacies, citing a scientist or a person in lab coat. But now it seems like if you tell some people this is what the science shows, they're just going to say, yeah, I don't care. Why should I care what science shows? I mean, science just changes its mind. It finds new information. The world's constantly changing. We have more access to more information than ever. And I would argue that in some ways we are more stupid, colloquially speaking, than we were 30 years ago.
Indeed, yeah.
It is hard because, when you look back to the mid 1900s and the success stories of science, it's like we put a man on the moon and we started mass producing insulin and we've got great ways to make penicillin better and all these things. And now we're like, guys, you really do have to wash your hands. You know that, right? Please. And so it's hard because on the one hand, it is kind of silly the way that we've trained people to just believe anything that flies out of the mouth of a politician or a talking head on TV or whatever like that. And there are so many remarkable advances in science now. Holy shit, the things we're accomplishing are insane. No idea why that popped up on my screen that way, but here we are. It's it is bonkers the amount that we're able to accomplish. And yet it is really heavily overshadowed by the people that we're having to fight about, basic biological and realities, or realities of chemistry and physics when it comes to things like climate change. And it blows because now I think, especially when we talk about things like sex and gender, which is, salient at this moment, we kind of see that this is something that no individual community is immune from. When you talk about evolution or climate change, these were things that I got into science partially in order to be better equipped to talk about, because education is my jam. So I wanted to become a scientist, so I knew everything I could know about this, that I could then educate people and teach about it better and fight these people. And when I was talking about, fighting these people that were anti-climate change and anti-evolution, all this stuff, generally speaking, I was talking about people who were, either very religious or very right-leaning. Now we see with, when we talk about gender, when we talk about trans issues, when we talk about LGBT people in general, we see people from all sides of the aisle and all sorts of different education levels and religious and not, and all these things, all with the same rhetoric, of denying science, of pretending like, biology is this cut and dry simple thing, and that, gay people are unnatural, and that you either have XX or XY, and that means you're either a boy or a girl, and boys act like this and girls act like that. And they're completely doing the exact thing that all these other people have been doing for a long time. So it really just comes down to, whether you're able to question yourself as opposed to, everybody else, and whether you're able to really actually, handle evidence well and learn as our education continues, and learn why science changes and why that's an important thing. It's a hard thing to advertise because it's really fuzzy and really weird.
So, Michael, what do you think we ought to do to
definitely. Well, I mean, I think the work that you guys are doing is absolutely brilliant, and there's quite a number of ex-Mormons, ex-Jehovah, ex-other religions that have stepped out and want to share their discovery. I mean, I think one of the things that we're maybe not doing, they paint atheists as some evil group, but hey, I never met you guys, but I love what you do and would support you any way I could. And I love other people in my community. I reach out, I volunteer, I do things. I try and, on a daily basis, just in the regular contacts I make as a human being, reach out. I'm not religious, but I think, atheists are not evil people. And just because we don't have their so-called moral code, there's other ways for us to find our way to the same destination, I think,
Yeah. I get it. It's incredibly frustrating. Do you see a big, is this increasing in Canada as well? Or are you guys just sitting up there going, God, the US is fucked?
Well, it's funny, I could share some other thoughts that I maybe offline with you sometime, Matt, to tell you the truth. I have an idea, but yeah, it is happening up here. And there's a magazine called the Druthers Report or something. I don't know where it's come from. It arrives in our mailbox. It's not delivered by a local post office. It's some sort of random carrier. And it's filled with eye-popping, triggering, rage-farming content. And it's full of shit most of the time, almost all of the time. But it's just designed to take people and put them in those silos again. So we have to try and break that somehow. We have to break this siloing that's happening. Now everybody's got their own source of news. Everybody's got their own source of beliefs. We have to try and amalgamate that somehow and just realize that, hey, we're nothing without each other. We are. We're nothing. We're literally nothing without each other,
Absolutely. I'm just double checking on the name here.
I'm going to let you go so we can move on to some other callers, but I appreciate the thoughts. And yeah, it's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But you guys are, as I say, this is the type of stuff that brings thought, out, and some ideas get to be shared, and, maybe you can come up with something, but it's tough. It is tough and probably frustrating for you guys too. But I like when you hang up on them the odd time. That's kind of fun too.
Cool. Then you'll love this.
Did you just drop them?
I did just drop them.
Oh man, that's great.
Everybody gets it now. Somebody in chat mentioned Matt Slick and said that he had plausible points on this, and I'm like, what does Matt Slick have plausible points on? Because he and I've debated, and I don't think he actually has plausible points on stuff, but it's all right. Liam in Nevada.
Oh shit, you're jumping right in. Never mind.
Hey, Liam, what do you want to talk about tonight?
I was wondering about, I had two things, but one was just a little question for Forrest. So my main thing was, why do people ignore evidence?
Because of cognitive dissonance. They hear something or see something or learn something that goes against what they think is true, and that causes a physical pain in their brain. And if you genuinely enjoy learning, you learn that this pain is the same thing as when you get a burn in your muscles when you're working out. It's something that's making you better, and then you work through that and you're better off for it, and you learn more stuff. Whereas for most people, they experience that discomfort and they assume something must be wrong and they run away from it. And so when you like get into a debate with somebody, depending on what they believe in, if you've talked to a flat earther, or a evolution denier, or a climate change denier, I don't know what the term, isn't it gender critical? I think is the new thing when people say that trans people don't exist or whatever it is. But you get into the conversation with these people, and you not only have to agree on what the evidence is, but what evidence matters and whether evidence matters at all anyway. And like all these different things, you have to go down layer by layer by layer. In one of my more recent YouTube videos, I talked about a time I talked to a guy who was a flat earther, and he came to a point in the conversation where he told me that I had blind faith in things like the speed of light and the force of gravity, and that these were things that I couldn't possibly know, and I just believed because somebody told me. And I explained that no, when you get a science degree, one of the first things you do in like chemistry 1 and physics 1 is you test these things for yourself. I have proven the speed of light in a laboratory. I've proven the force of gravity in a laboratory. I've taught high schoolers the speed of light by proving it in front of them with a microwave. And you can do it with the microwave and some cheese. You can prove the speed of light. I'd love to go into how if you want to know later. But this is something that I've done myself. And this guy, his response was, well, you can't prove to me that the same laws of physics in that laboratory apply out here. And at that point, what's the point of the conversation? If I have to prove to you that physics is the same in one room and another room. And so like this guy was so desperate for me to be wrong that he was willing to say that literally if you walk across the threshold of the door, light might be moving differently, gravity might be moving differently, like it could be all different. So when you ask why do people ignore evidence, is because it's more comfortable for them to do so. They are scared shitless of being wrong. And if you're a scientist, and remember the definition of a scientist is anybody who has expert knowledge in or is currently learning science. So you and everybody else listening, if you're willing to do the hard work, are already a scientist. When you're a scientist, you fucking love being wrong because it means you learn something new. Like my degrees and the research I've done and all this shit has nothing to do with me being a scientist. What makes me and anybody else a scientist is that I fucking love being wrong because it makes me smarter every time that I am. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Absolutely. And then I guess made me think of another question related to that is what's the evolutionary reason for that? Like what in our past has caused us to do that?
To ignore evidence? Or just to have crazy beliefs in general? Which one?
For cognitive dissonance. Like what's the...
Yeah, so I couldn't point to a single thing, and this is something that's it's really genuinely tricky. Evolutionary neuroscience is a whole big thing because it's really hard to figure out, what were people thinking 1 million or 2 years ago, But if I had to point to something that I think is compelling, that's useful, is that, we have a tendency to latch onto beliefs. We have a tendency to see important messages in meaningless data. We have a tendency to find patterns where there aren't patterns. Epiphania and pareidolia are other words for patternicity, which is this really cool thing humans do, where we like I said, we find meaning where there isn't any, and we apply those things to our lives. And also, it's important to notice that when you're in a survival situation, it's actually beneficial to be wrong the right way.
Right.
A false positive is better than a false negative. If you hear a rustling in the bushes and you think that's probably just the breeze and it turns out to be a tiger, you're going to get eaten. Meanwhile, if you say it's a tiger and you run and it's just the breeze, nothing happens. Pascal's wager works in evolution,
Yeah,
No,
I'm sorry. I thought you were there. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's about. I was just going to say that, like, when it comes down to like ignoring evidence, like people find patterns that they like, they find stories that they like, they find things that keep them feeling safe. And when they're being assailed by conflicting evidence, by other things, it feels very dangerous. You're no longer in the safe zone that you were in your mind, because what's going on up here feels just as real as what's going on everywhere else. There's a reason why a big part of when we talk about therapy, most of people who I know that are therapists always talk about the illusion of control and how that's so important for the people that they work with. So it's that same thing when you are confronted with new evidence and your worldview is challenged. You feel like you've lost control of something. You feel scared. You hear a rustling in the bushes of your mind. You're looking for ways to connect the dots that don't necessarily make sense. And if you're not right, then who is right? And who can anybody be right? And also, there's one more thing you should know, which is the concept of naive realism, which is the belief that our eyes and ears tell us everything we need to know about the universe. All these things together just weave the picture of a very scared little monkey who is able to make excuses for themselves. Something that I hope we can grow out of with education.
And I'll add a couple things that are both partially included in what Forrest was just talking about. One of the things is that a lot of people get wrong. I got into an argument with somebody at DebateCon very briefly because when he decided to look me in the eye and say, "Let me slow this down for you so you understand," I just walked away and said, "I don't need to hear anything from you." And he was like, "Pussy." So that was fun. But the thing that I was trying to teach him was that, and I get in trouble with biologists about this because I like to look at evolution as if it's not so much selecting for things, although it can, but it's selecting against certain things. And so some things are going to be carried along in the genome and in our just behaviors because they're not sufficiently negative to wipe out yet. They may have some advantage. They may have some secondary or tertiary advantage, but while they're ultimately negative, like I view religion as a negative, but it's not entirely a negative. It's a way to get people motivated to do stuff. It's a way to help build communities. It's a way to build connections with people. It's just not the only way or the best way, and it comes with a lot of baggage. So in addition to the fact that evolution, from my perspective, more often than not should be viewed as selecting against something, and if it's not harmful enough, there's no reason to get rid of it. We also know, and this is probably one of those negatives that has lots of positives, as soon as somebody makes a public profession of a belief, an out loud public profession of a belief, they are less likely to change their mind, and they are more likely to double down in the face of strong evidence to the contrary, just because they've now staked their reputation on it. And I think this has to do with the social pressures of, we're a communal species. Yes, there are people who don't want anything to do with other people. Fine. They're the outliers. We interact with people. We have a certain amount of social capital that we're going to spend. And our reputation is the one thing that we can hang on to when we don't have money or friends or anything else. It's, you should trust me. I am trustworthy. And because we put so much stock into how trustworthy individuals are, we want to make sure that we're trustworthy, even when we shouldn't be considered trustworthy. And so if I tell somebody, I know that Jesus Christ is Lord, what I'm saying is I believe this, I believe it incredibly strongly, I'm convinced you should trust me because I wouldn't lie to you. And the thing is, that's probably true. That person isn't trying to lie to you. They're being honest, and they're just failing to realize that they might also be honestly mistaken.
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah, that was a really good answer.
Thanks, Liam.
Yeah.
Why don't you do me a Thanksgiving? Why don't you do me a Thanksgiving favor, Liam, and you hang up on us today?
Ooh, okay. And before I leave, I want to say thanks for Forrest. Thanks, Forrest. Like you got me into science. Now I'm reading all these science books, and I'm watching educational YouTube videos, and I want to thank you for getting me into that, because
it's my pleasure.
Really, nice thing to learn. So thank you.
It's fucking awesome. How old are you, by the way? Do you mind me asking?
13.
13, fucking amazing. Flipping amazing. Pardon me, young child. You got
too late.
You're right. You've got a hell of a road ahead of you, and like I recommend, pick up if you ever want to. You can get like what is it called? OpenStax, I think it is. OpenStax is on. It's a thing online which they publish free biology, chemistry, physics, all sorts of books. It's OpenStax, I believe. Let me double check while I'm talking to you just to be safe, because what it is, it's like introductory stuff. flip. God damn it. No. OpenStax. There we go. Yes, OpenStax. And so they've got all sorts of math and science and social sciences and all sorts of stuff. And it's all introductory. So it's like what we would call a 1,000 level course, which is like freshman community college stuff. So if you're 13, you're reading at that level. It's already a bit above your pay grade. But I swear to Glob, dude, if you're already looking into this stuff, if you have the initiative to do that, you can get some of it in your head and you don't have to memorize every page. Just kind of skim through it every now and then and kind of get used to the words and shit. So the next time you hear them, it kind of clicks together, gives you a head start on everybody else. Strongly recommend it. Also, there's significant research that shows that actually reading something and taking handwritten notes is a way better way to retain knowledge than just watching things. So that will help you in the future as well.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, there's more resources for you, man.
Thanks so much. Yep.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Liam.
Love your videos.
By the
Love
way,
what you've
for
done.
all of those
Have a
people,
Have a good show.
thanks,
All right,
Liam.
man. Take care.
For all those people who are thrilled that not only is Forrest here with me this evening, but also Forrest and Shannon will be starting a new show next week. There's something that Forrest doesn't know yet. And obviously he can say no, but I plan to railroad him. You see, because in addition to all of the shows that we do here and the ones that I do around related to atheism, philosophy, science, and those things, as many of you know, Arden and I have started our hobby / business of keeping and breeding snakes. And we're going to, not just snakes, but we're branching out. So right now we've got a bunch of ball pythons. And by the way, we ended up with mites in the collection. And so I'm currently, I spent 10 hours the other day, basically fumigating everything. But not only are we doing the snake thing, I'd already called Forrest once because I was taking an example that Clint from Clint's Reptiles did using Legos to discuss genetics, and I had a thought about it, and so we called Forrest right away to double check my sanity. But hopefully, as we start producing video content on our other channel, which I can't tell you the name of yet, but it's going live soon, after probably be live at the first of the year, all about the snake breeding. And do I pay scale? That's a good joke. I suspect that you will likely see Forrest guesting there to talk about herpetology and genes and all of the things if he wants to, because I know we all dig it, and it's
snakes.
Yes. And you know what's weird? I'll tell you the weirdest thing, and then I want to get on to more callers. I love snakes. I've always loved snakes. I don't love. I'm a herpetologist kind of guy. I'm not a herpetologist, but I love herpetology. But there are some, amphibians and things that I'm not all that fond about or crazy about. But snakes, I love snakes. However, since we have so many, I'm up to 19 now, which ties me with Aron Ra. In order to feed them and keep the cost down, we are also breeding rats. And we're not just breeding them for food, we're also breeding them for potential pets and stuff like that. And these, I'm almost more excited about what's happening with the rats lately than I have been with the snakes. Unfortunately, we've had several of them die, and because we weren't the caretakers for them through their life, I don't know if it was old age or some condition or whatever else, but we now have 2 litters plus 2 babies. One had like 7 babies, but only 2 lived. But the other 2 litters are already there. So we're actually just having like rats growing at an exponential rate right now, which is extra fun. But I didn't get to talk to you about that yet. So
that's excellent.
Oh, here's a super chat from Jimmy Snow. Oh, I'm sorry, Jimmy, but we read all super chats over $10, and that one's only $9.99. So I'm going to need you to do that again in order to get me to. No, I'm just kidding. Don't miss our new shows launching next week. Skeptalk launches on Monday and HOSTility on Tuesdays. Forrest and Shannon will launch Skeptalk, and Jim will be joined by a sex coach on HOSTility Tuesday. Yes.
How exciting.
By the way, I'm assuming there's no, and Jimmy can just yell in my ear, I'm assuming there's no transatlantic tomorrow.
You would assume wrong. I've actually been making this happen in the last hour.
Wow.
Because we have so many Brits and lonely people. Famous British person Katy Montgomerie will be joined by famous lonely person student Dr. Ben at the normal time tomorrow. I'm famous lonely person too, though, so I get it. So yeah, Katie and Ben tomorrow.
That's actually
Transatlantic, normal
Cool.
time. We'll get the event up. after the
Transatlantic
show.
Call-In Show, normal time. Katie and Ben, there you go. So
That's right.
you can have your Thanksgiving, or you can say, you know what, I don't care about that, or I'm tired of sitting around relatives, or I'm tired of listening to all the crap that they're spewing, or I showed up with all my relatives and all they keep talking about is this anti-trans nonsense over and over and over and over and over again. You can take a break and go listen to the Transatlantic Call-In Show tomorrow, or call in and, talk about what your family is saying. You wouldn't believe the shit that Aunt Josephine said. Or what?
Just put it on in front of them. Start a fight. Why be boring?
If it's your house,
put it on in front of everybody.
Yeah. If it's your house, go for it. If you don't mind who leaves, go for it. I like it. If I was at my mom's house, I wouldn't put it on there because I don't get to decide what's going to be on display at my mom's house. But awesome stuff. All right, so we have 4 callers right now. I want to make sure I get to. Thank you, everybody. We have no theists calling in, but we might have some others who we can help on something.
Theists are scared.
Anonymous in Buffalo is having a difficult time with not hating extreme right Republicans. So welcome.
Hey, how are you two? Hope well. You've got some exciting stuff on the pipeline. You've got some exciting shows on the pipeline going, on the channel. So I'm looking forward to all that. My main problem is that I don't know. I'm pretty hyperbolic sometimes, and I use the word hate when I don't actually mean hate, or stupid when I don't mean, stupid. But lately I've been feeling a lot of anger that, aside from counseling, I was wondering if I could get some advice on how do you guys keep your cool? Because I'm really I want to punch something, I get this anger inside of me because of all the hate. And I don't know if that's correct, that's accurate. Extreme Republicans, there are Republicans that I don't dislike as much as other ones, but I'm just feeling it, and I'm not part of the LGBTQ community. I just like people, and I want people to be happy, and I'm getting really angry.
So do you want me to give you a oh, sorry, you go ahead.
I just want to ask, are you prone to actually being violent? Like, I'll tell you what happened to me at the debate the other night, and that is somebody just absolutely awful decided to interrupt the debate, yelling over everybody, got their phone out, and then starts moving quickly up towards where I'm sitting at the desk. Now, there wasn't really security here. James runs the event, and he's a pretty big dude, so he got up out of his chair to stop that guy from getting any closer. But I'm in a position where the only thing I can do at that moment is to make sure this person knows you are not getting in my personal space. And so I just flat out said, if you come near me, I'm going to knock you the fuck out. Now, we all know, anybody who saw the two of us knows that I was not knocking anybody out, but it was basically a stay away from me. And so I said something that advocated for violence, even though I wouldn't have actually engaged in violence. Are you someone who thinks you're prone to actually engaging in violence, or do you think it's hyperbolic?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not ever violent. I hate violence. But if I needed to defend myself, there are times where I feel like I don't get it at the right time. I don't get that frustration and anger, and I might have a hard time channeling it in accurate or good ways, even if it were just defending myself against someone, or I might feel put on the spot in your specific situation. That sounds like more of I don't know if that seemed more abrupt to me, and I don't know if I'd find that anger inside of me at that time, but I definitely feel it when I hear the news.
Yeah, Forrest, have you got thoughts about dealing with
Yeah.
like that
I
frustration?
couldn't imagine Forrest being angry. I mean, I can
Oh, I
imagine him
could.
being angry, but I
I couldn't
I
imagine him
don't see
being
him
physically
getting off
violent,
the
but I can
rails
imagine
angry.
him angry.
So I can imagine me both because I've been there, and like the thing is, like it's I can give you a real flowery philosophical answer, and I can give you a legitimate answer, and I'll try to do both halfway, so I'm not leaning too hard on one or the other. One of my favorite quotes I learned when I was very young was from Nietzsche, and he said that when we are fighting monsters, we must make sure not to become monsters, because as we stare into the abyss stares back into you. I love that, and it reminds me that a significant portion of my career of what I want to do with my life. Not just something that I've been thrust into, but like actually the reason I am the way I am today and what I want to do is to go up against violent and hateful people. I want to rid the world of bullies. That's what I want to do. And I would, it sounds so easy to say I would be no better than them if I were to then go out and be violent and be hurtful as well. But the honest truth is, I'm an educator, and over the past 10 years of working with kids and adults alike, I've learned that number one, every single thing that you do is a lesson, period, whether you mean it to be or not. And oftentimes the things that you think about the least are the things that will matter the most to somebody. And I can give you countless stories of, people have come up to me years down the line from when I met them or taught the class with them or something and said, hey, you did this one thing and I don't even remember and they're like, you did this thing and I completely changed my life because of it. I'm like, I'm so happy to hear that. Who are you? And so like there's that's a constant lesson, is that everything you're doing, you are always teaching. And especially for somebody like, Matt or I, much more Matt than me, when you have a platform, you have a lot of people who are watching you and taking cues from you all the time. And so you can't give in to that kind of desire, because at the end of the day, what you're teaching those people is it's okay to be violent and it's okay to be hateful and it's okay to, as long as you're right, and at that point, the might makes right type thing, or the right makes might makes right. It just doesn't work out. Right. And so the second thing that plays into that, which is, not for people who don't care about education, people who don't care about the influence they have, but people just want to be good for themselves, which is also great. I would say that, like, I want to rid the world of bullies. I want to fight all these people, but I refuse to do it on their terms. Their terms suck. I've been on the receiving end of their terms, and I don't like it. It just doesn't feel good, and it certainly doesn't feel good to give it, because I know I've been angry and I've been violent before, and it doesn't feel good on me either. Trying to, harness anger and be violent against somebody is, you're picking up a hot coal to throw it at somebody. You get burned first. And so when I think about these things, I refuse to do it on their terms. I might make fun of somebody, I might laugh at them a little bit, but I'm never going to be mean. And I'm always going to lead with compassion. And even if I lose that one student, that's another thing that ties back to education, because of course it does. Even if I know for sure I'm never going to bring in this one student, and it's a complete waste of time for me to try to draw this one person close to me, you know what I mean? I can push them away real well and still make them an example for the rest of the class without being hurtful and hate. You know what I mean? So that's my answer. My long, drawn out, flowery ass answer is just that.
Plus, you're a colorful guy.
I'm a what?
You're a colorful guy. I keep saying the color bars. I don't have
it's my capture.
I don't have much to add on that, but I will say
that was really good.
Yeah, I will say, I don't know if you have people around you who don't make you feel that way, but I think it's really important to find people and keep them in your life and interact with them who do not make you feel that way. I don't have a lot of people like that. I mean, Arden keeps me stable, and I think I kind of do the same for her. And then there's, my co-hosts and the people that I interact with, Forrest and Jimmy and others. None of them make me want to, rage against the dying of the light or whatever. The other thing about when fighting monsters, you also shouldn't let them end you, because then there's nobody to fight monsters. So it's this fine line of making sure that you don't go negative first, that you don't go negative further, and that you're not a doormat, and that you're pushing back because you know when you're fighting monsters, you're fighting them. It's a struggle, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always has to go to violence. And if you're in a conversation with somebody who you genuinely care about, who's just being awful, and their position is just awful, and it's just spinning you up, stick a pin in it and say, I don't want this to be what the sum total of our relationship is. Let's go off and think and talk about it another time, another day. I had a friend. I still have a friend, thankfully. We've been friends for years. We had a significant fight with some significant disagreement, and it could have ended the friendship. But fortunately, both of us cared enough about it to be like, okay, let's pause and go off and think and let cooler heads prevail and come back and deal with this another time. And we may never see eye to eye on that issue. As a matter of fact, I don't suspect we're likely to. Then it just becomes, okay, how much do I want to let this issue with this person consume my life and my time? The world is a hot mess, and it is in many ways getting worse. There's a lot of stuff to focus on. But if you're in a constant state of irritation and agitation over everything everybody says, which I understand because I've been there, you can't be productive even on the things that you probably could fix if you're worried about the things that you can't fix.
That makes a lot of sense. You guys.
If you have 2 seconds also, or really I should say if Matt, if you're cool with it, a huge part of my upbringing was like old monk fables, koans, just like ways of learning. I can summarize one for you really quick that I think is salient.
Cool.
So the short end of the story, like you can go on with this for a long time. The short story is there's an old man sitting by the pond, and in the pond there's a scorpion that's fallen into the water and is drowning, and the old man reaches out to scoop up the scorpion, and the scorpion stings him, and he goes and drops it into the water, and the young guy on the other side of the pond laughs at him and says, "You idiot, what did you think was going to happen? You picked up a scorpion," and the scorpion's still drowning, so the old man picks it up again, it stings him again, he goes and he drops it into the water, and the young man laughs at him again, says, "Why are you doing it? Stop it." And this happens 2 or 3 more times over and over until eventually finally the old man is able to scoop the scorpion out of the water and toss it to the side of the bank, and the scorpion clacks away with its claws up in the air, all proud of itself that it got out of the water. And this man has his hand all swollen and red and painful. And the young man says, "What the fuck is wrong with you, you crazy old man? Like, you clearly didn't do anything significant. It doesn't even know you helped it. You're hurt. Like, it's in its nature to hurt you. Why would you help it so much? It's not, that's its nature to do this." And the old man said, "It is in its nature to be hurtful. It is in my nature to be helpful." And the moral of the story is, don't let someone else's nature to be shitty change your nature to be good. And like, that's just something that sticks out to me. You know what I mean? That the world is going to continue to be shitty. And I could easily be too, but I'd rather not be. And I don't want their shitty nature to influence my good nature. And even if they keep being shitty and keep stinging and keep being awful, I'm just going to keep being helpful. And eventually I'll win. And I'll be smiling because of it.
Wow. Well, you guys, I mean, I'm actually kind of shocked that I feel a little better than I thought I would talking to you guys. It's been, yes, and my best, Arden, and I'm a big fan. So thank you very much for everything you do.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. I'm gonna let you go. Joe said that. Joe in chat said monk fables don't have the F word. Well, they fucking should.
They should, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It would make them more impactful.
It's a great word. We have Lars in Switzerland. Pronouns are they, them. Welcome, Lars. How are you?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? Hi.
We can hear you.
Hello. Okay, sweet. Yeah, basically, my question at the moment is, I've talked to several people since I became an atheist, and I'm kind of trying to speed run through my angry atheist phase as quickly as possible. I don't want to hang out here too long. My main thing is, so many people who I talk to, they clearly have no idea what they're talking about. You know, because I've been spending quite a bit of time studying, like mainly because of YouTubers like Forrest and Professor Dave and Guts Gibbon and stuff. I've been researching a lot about evolutionary biology and stuff. I'm actually started a course, which mainly thanks to people like you, Forrest, which I really appreciate. Basically, geez, I'm getting sidetracked.
You're fine.
These how do I talk to people who they're only using science like as a weapon to beat up on stuff that they don't like, right? And then I like show them the actual studies and all the stuff that they're ignoring, or how they're using 100-year-old science, and they just don't listen.
The problem is that good scientists will tell you that there's nothing in science that is good or bad. You can't derive life lessons from science. Things in nature just are. They aren't, anything. Also, I think we've got the wrong name for you on the bottom of the screen. I'm sorry about that. But this is another reason why whoever owns the line should fire Jimmy Snow. But I
agree. I heard that Jimmy Snow eats poop anyway.
He's terrible.
That's Matt Walsh, and you know it. Let's not ruin this.
Go ahead.
A good scientist will tell you that things in nature just are. They aren't good or bad. You can't derive a life lesson from them. Blah 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 blah. And they're correct. Like, that is a thing. However, here's the big but at the end of the statement. It isn't unreasonable to kind of like use science to guide our actions and our ideas and our beliefs a little bit. So we can't say oh, this happens in nature, therefore we should do this way or whatever, but we can say this happens in nature, therefore we shouldn't be a dick about it or something. So when people point to science to try to make it a weapon, they're already breaking the first rule. And generally speaking, the reason why I said all of that was not just to say it, but also to point out the fact that modern science generally flies in the face of what a lot of hateful people say. When transphobes or homophobes point to science as a thing to point out, like gender binary and heteronormativity, they're missing the last 20 to 30 years of modern science. They're neglecting that. When people try to point to the climate change not being a real thing, they're generally using outdated or inaccurate models that have since been done away with. Or they're using statistics poorly on purpose. So like, if someone doesn't want to listen to science, just fucking find a real ass scientist, or actually a science book, and prove them wrong. It's a lot of fun. On this last episode, I don't know if it's kosher to mention, but on the last time I was on the Atheist Experience, somebody called in and said that sex and gender are the same thing and they're both blah blah blah, and that's just basic science. And I was able to pull up this textbook, which is a genetics textbook that goes into great detail about how that's not fucking true. And like, that's just a cool thing you can do if you know what it is. So like, yeah, if someone's ignoring science, I'd say the exact same thing if they were anti-evolution or anti-trans. They just need to learn real fucking science, and that'll go away real quick.
Okay, yeah. It is kind of interesting because I was having a discussion with a guy about evolution, and he kept bringing up, the old classics, and the whole conflating all of the science that contradicts creationism, and just putting all of that into a pile labeled evolution. And I don't really know all that much about cosmology and stuff, but at the end I just kept refuting each and one of his points and explaining how all of them were wrong. And in the end he told me, I think he was a pastor or something, like, what do you expect me to do, just shut up and listen? And I really wanted to tell him yes. I really just kind of wanted to tell him yeah, because I know more than you about this specific topic here, so kind of I'll happily listen to you talk about interpretations of the Bible, but
if you were in a debate over what the Bible says, I'm sure he would have expected you to shut up and listen. And that makes sense.
It's just really frustrating. I don't know, because I can point out like specific studies and whatever.
I understand it, and I'm just going to mostly agree with what Forrest has to say, and that's, by the way, Forrest, you get to say whatever you want about whatever shows you want. I have no idea what that show was you were talking about, but
I don't know about
I don't.
crossing lines as far as like the different
No,
businesses and whatnot.
it's fine. I don't think we're fooling anybody. That Forrest is still on the atheist experience that I'm not on, and it's fine. We know what's going on, but I get your frustration, Lars, in that. Yes, it would be very easy to say, yes, just shut up and listen for a second. There's probably slightly better ways to do it. And probably Socratic methods are better, in which you might go, okay, do you think you know better than this scientific study? Do you have a better study that you can reference? I'm talking to you about actual studies and findings. I'm talking to you about, what the consensus science is. Do you have something that counters it that you can point to that isn't just, I heard this, or, here's my opinion? And if they can't, then, you've already won.
Yeah. I would also
At
like
least-
my
at least for that
favorite thing
moment.
to do is just to play a little game called "Can you please define the thing you're trying to tell me isn't true?" That's always fun. If you can, if you don't believe in evolution, can you please tell me what you think evolution is? And we'll go from there. If you don't believe in, radiometric dating, define what radiometric dating. Tell me what you think it is that we can't do. What are we actually saying that you don't believe in? Tell me what a fossil is. Tell me what extinction means. Tell me, when you talk about geological strata, what is that? And 9 times out of 10, the conversation stops very quickly there because they're very, very adamant that they hate this thing and they have no fucking clue what it actually is that they hate. But somebody told them that it's not real and that's all they got. And there's a lot of other things. I get the exact same response. People argue about socialism or critical race theory or Marxism. It's all the same thing. You have no idea what this is, but you sure do hate it. So let's start with what it is and go from there.
Yeah. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, thanks. That is. Okay, that's about it. Oh, hey, have you guys considered, before I go, have you guys considered getting Professor Dave Farina on the show?
That's not my call.
I don't know who that is, so.
Producer
he's a
here,
popular
I also
YouTube
don't know who that
science
is.
man.
Another
He's a very
YouTube science
popular
guy?
YouTube science man. Yeah, I don't
Cool.
watch his stuff. I hear he's really cool. I don't watch his stuff like on purpose. I haven't had the opportunity to, but I hear he's good.
Thanks for the
thanks a lot.
suggestion, though, Lars. Appreciate it.
Take care, man.
All right. And last caller before we get on to Super Chat. Here we go. Give me 1 second. Hello, Taryn in Arizona. You're on the line.
Hey, it's been a while since I talked to you guys. Forrest, I love your presentation and how you talk. It's amazing.
Thanks so much,
I had a quick question. I had a quick question. So, Matt, I might need you to put on your Jesus hat here. But
Okay.
a lot of times when I'm talking to Christians or you hear Christians call into your show, they're always trying to debunk evolution or claim young Earth or some other variation of that nonsense. Why do Christians think that disproving this one branch of science would prove God when they're completely unrelated?
I have a hypothesis, but I think Matt might know more than that because he actually came out of Christianity.
Can you ask the question one more time? Because I think I inverted the question in my head. So one more time.
So why do Christians feel that debunking evolution, the age of the universe, or some other variation of science would prove God when they're not related? Because one's mythology and one's science.
Oh, I don't think that they think that disproving one aspect of science would prove God. I think that they are only interested in debunking things that give the impression that they're in conflict with God. And the more of those things that they can dismiss, the stronger the foundation it seems. It gives an impression that their God is on stronger foundation because it's fallacies all the way down. Oh, wait, I got my Jesus hat on. I need a different hat for that because what they're actually doing is saying, okay, I can't prove God, But there are these things that are coming from science that seem to conflict with God. I don't think they could. Well, hang on. Let me put the Jesus thing back on. I don't think those things are actually true and real, and they're not in conflict with God. And because I'm convinced that God exists, those things can't be true and real. So I need to knock down each one of those so that they're no longer roadblocks to people who would like to find their way to Jesus. The unfortunate reality is those things aren't the only roadblocks at all, because the biggest roadblock to having a warranted belief in a God is that there isn't sufficient evidence to warrant that belief. So you could prove everything wrong, everything, not just evolution, every bit of science wrong, and you still wouldn't necessarily have proven a God. That is all. You can knock down everything that's not God, and you still haven't shown me God. And that's one of the aspects that they largely don't understand, but in some cases I think they do understand, and it's just frustrating because the number of times I'll get a theist who calls in and just says, well, you can't ever prove God. Thank you for admitting that you do not have a warranted belief.
I would add to that and just say that my hypothesis stems from the fact that when you're coming out of a dogmatic worldview, you're taught that everything that this church tells you is true. Everything in the Bible is correct. God is always right, and he's always the right answer, and all this stuff. And so you don't have the capacity to understand something like science, where we do question everything all the time. I very frequently say question everything, and I very frequently accuse by theists in my chat comment section. He questions everything except evolution. He never questions evolution. And like, yes, I fucking have. That's the point of my job. And so like when you come out of this dogmatic worldview, you're trained to think that if something is questionable, if it's fallible, if you can find one little chink in the armor, if you can find one scale missing on the dragon, you can bring the whole thing down. Because if you can question God, then oh my goodness, the whole religion would fall apart. So if I can find one problem with radiometric dating, one problem with evolution, one problem with whatever, then the whole thing must fall apart, because you're not supposed to be able to question something that's true. And this is also I assume, again, this is all just my hypothesis. I think it's a lot of the reason why people who come out of religion are prone to conspiracy theory. A lot of atheists out there think that the government's run by lizard people and the Illuminati, and that the climate's controlled by a weather machine and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's because, again, now all of a sudden they learn that they can ask questions. And if you can ask questions, then the thing might fall apart. And so they assume it's gonna. And so like that, realizing that the answer to the question might actually be the one you already know is crazy. So yeah, I think that's what it really comes down to, in my opinion, or at least that's what I hear when I talk to people in these ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Real quick, before I hang up, I'm going to make a prediction that I'm pretty sure I can hear a theist caller calling in about the next couple of years. With the launch of the James Webb Telescope being far more powerful than the Hubble, our understanding of the age of the universe is probably incorrect. Not the age of the world, just the age of the universe. I can almost guarantee that if this is proven true, that some theists will call on down the line saying, hey, the age of the universe is incorrect. How do I know it's still not incorrect? Because I think we found a star or galaxy that was like 34 billion light years away, if our measurements are right, which would make the age of the universe far older than we think it is.
Yeah. So like we are still refining the age of the universe even before the James Webb Telescope. We always have been. And this is the
I'm aware of the star Methuselah, which threw our calculations out.
Right. So like we have other stars that really throw things off, and that's actually kind of expected. But like that's the whole with better technology, we'll learn more things. But this is the thing, is that we have a saying in science that all models are wrong. Some of them are useful. So if we look at a map, for example, every map is wrong. The Earth is what the Earth looks like. But a Google map from today, like a Google satellite image, is better than some weird map from the 1600s with sea monsters and shit in it that doesn't have the western half of the world written on it. That map is also better than no map, but it's still wrong. And the Google Images map is still wrong because the Earth is what the Earth looks like. And similarly, reality is what reality looks like. All we have are little snippets of it. And we're trying to put together the whole map. So we have an option. We can do the best we can with what we have. And when new evidence comes in, we accommodate that new evidence and learn new stuff and change our perspective. Or we can just decide that we're right because we're right because we're right because we're right. And we never grow up and we never get any better. And if that were the case, if people think that, science changing is a bad thing, ask them why, when they get sick, they don't do bloodletting anymore to balance their humors. Ask them why they don't bury children under their house to stop wind spirits from knocking their house over. Ask them why they don't purify their water through prayer and chanting, but with an antimicrobial filter instead. It's because as we learn new stuff, we adopt those ideas into our reality and we get better at being humans. So science is always changing. That's the damn point. That's why it works.
That was a great way to say it. So, lastly, don't fire Jimmy Snow. I like him. He's awesome. And one more thing, Fergalburgle. Have a good night.
Fergalburgle and Ergburgle. Thanks so much, Taryn. Appreciate it. That gets us to the end of the calls, which means from now,
Hell yeah.
from now and oh wow, good job. See,
It just got
I don't
real
have
goofy.
that problem.
It's getting way too long in the front. Look at that. It's madness.
I had a grandfather who used to joke that the good Lord made a few perfect heads and the rest of me covered with hair. And somebody asked me yesterday, and I've talked about it before, why I'm bald. And I said, it's because my brain works correctly. When your brain works correctly, it eats up all the nutrients that would normally feed hair, and hair just doesn't grow. So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
On that note, we're going to go through some super chats here. Anybody who donated $10 or more, except for this Jimmy Snow guy who just keeps sending messages. Oh my gosh. I'm actually going to read this. I am actually going to read. What's that, Jimmy?
I paid once. I'm still going to make you read it multiple times.
Oh yeah. I'll read it.
Cheap.
Also,
you should donate again and again.
Yes. Let's just, everybody here's seen it now. This message popped up like 3 times, which means Jimmy must have donated $30. And if we don't get $30 from him, I'm going to beat him up after school and take his lunch money.
Furious.
Oh, wait, that's violence. Anyway, as a reminder, yes, don't miss our new shows that are launching next week. Skeptalk's going to launch on Mondays and HOSTility on Tuesdays. Forrest and Shannon will be launching Skeptalk this coming Monday. And Jimmy will be joined by a sex coach on HOSTility on Tuesday. And then, then there's the Wednesday thing, which is this show, The Hang Up. Thursdays is Transatlantic Call-In Show. Sundays is the Sunday Show. Holy moly, it's like there's an actual awesome network of awesome here, and I love it. But now I'm reading Super Chats, so I can't double task. $10 from Jupiter Quake. Their rhetoric is always smokescreen. It does nothing to divert from the stochastic terrorism. Drag queens are fabulous, not monsters. Amen. Although I suppose somewhere there's a drag queen that's an absolute monster, and that somebody will be one. Look, see, here's the one. Here's the one.
Yep. Unless it is a straight white man, then it is a lone wolf. Every other instance of anybody being a terrorist is indicative of the whole group.
The problem is that most drag queens I've met are straight white men.
I mean,
yep, they're just doing drag, but
right.
I just want to be clear that the next one is for Forrest to read.
Yes, we'll alternate. Forrest, you're up next.
I don't want to. For fuck's sake. Johnny Tips spent $10.01 of their own hard-earned money. That took probably an hour of their life away to earn that money just to tell me to say thanks for calling the line. Hey, you know what else, Johnny Tips and Jimmy Snow? I have a question for you. How do you make an egg roll? You push
on an incline plane.
There it goes.
You push it.
You're right, yeah. Forrest. He did. I mean, a lot of work went into buying that request, so I'll just have to put it up a few times. Yep. For those who don't know, this is a deep reference to when Forrest last filled in for Matt, and there were bird puns all night long.
Yup. Ugh.
See, I might have to just do bird puns for the rest of the show.
Send more puns.
1999 from LA Silver Surfers. Thank you so much. By the way, I know that I'll probably do a little summation at the end of all this. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I don't give a crap about Thanksgiving. But I do give a crap about giving thanks. And I'm thankful to Jimmy, and I'm thankful to Forrest, my other co-hosts, the people who frequently come on here, the various lawyers and doctors and experts and people who know more about stuff than I do, who are willing to come on and give their time to both educate me and others. And all of you who tune in, especially since we weren't even supposed to have a show today, the moderators, the call screeners, that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for the people who are actually doing stuff. I don't give a fuck what a God, until God shows me that it's done anything for me to be thankful for, I'm not wasting any time with my hands folded in prayer. And I saw my favorite message again today, which I think I've seen before, which is on Thanksgiving, when you're feeling thankful, don't look up, look around.
Love that. Love that. I always heard someone was like, we don't need, don't need more to be thankful for, just need to be thankful for more things or something like that. I forgot how it's phrased. $50, Jesus of Christland from David Evans. Matt and Forrest, you both are awesome. I can watch both of your channels and absolutely love all the amazing content. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. You speak way too highly of me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Yeah, don't speak nicely about Forrest.
No, I don't.
$9.99 from Shannon Mac. I have nothing intelligent to say as my whole being is out by COVID. I know, but thanks for the show tonight. I needed this. Burgle. I'm so glad that you were able to tune in and watch. For those who don't know, I also stream on Twitch almost daily for a couple hours. I knock out my daily stuff. It's what gets me started in the morning before I go off and do stuff. And Shannon is almost always there. And, so we heard that she's unfortunately dealing with COVID, as are several other people. I'm really lucky that I hope that I don't come down with it, because at that debate con, there were definitely some non-vaxxed conspiracy theorist minded people. And so I'm hoping that was the other reason to stay the fuck away from me, is I don't trust that dude was vaccinated. For all I know, he's coming over to lick me full of Omicron.
I expect nothing less from that audience. I will shit talk other shows, by the way, even if you won't.
Oh, I'll shit talk other shows just fine. But
$20 from Wonder She Her. It was extremely disgusting to see a group of people waving American and F Biden signs on an I-25 overpass south of Colorado Springs the next day after the shooting. Didn't then hear about it. Put a mark like maybe they didn't hear about it. And all I could do was flip them off. It is hard when that's all you have, when that's the best you can do at the time. But yeah, no, like we talked about earlier, man, like these things, they are polarizing events. And unfortunately, some people are more interested in being right than being compassionate. And so they're going to use that opportunity to try to prove their worldview, or try to rub it in everybody's face. And fuck those people. Fuck everything about those people. That sounds awful. What an awful way to be. What a sad way to be. Thanks for the gift, though. Holy shit. Thank you very much.
$20. Wow, you guys are awesome. From Dead Pirate Tattoo. Forrest is the rising star in the atheist community. Eh, Matt? Lets him talk. Must be something there. There's a lot there, which is why I was more than happy to have him fill in when I'm not here. He can talk the whole show, and I'll just take the day off. And there's a lot of people who are actually like that. It's something that people... Well, I'm not going to go through in detail, but over the years of doing shows, I think some people miss the fact that there's a rapport that builds up between hosts and co-hosts, and there's a bit of familiarity with where people's expertise lie. And so quite often on shows, people would be calling in specifically to go at me on some issue. And so, yeah, I end up talking a lot more than co-hosts on occasion. But also, on some occasions, I'll have a co-host on that, does not care about philosophical arguments, does not want to engage, and does not necessarily understand the subtleties in philosophical arguments. They want to do it from a more, layman's perspective. And so if things get meaty, I might jump in more there. With Forrest, I'm not sure I even have to show up. So that's cool.
No, you're way better at me at the philosophical side, the Socratic side, picking little things apart. I'm just here to like fucking blab about evidence and all this science mumbo jumbo. Ugh.
I can't wait till you come down and see all the reptiles we got, and we're getting more.
I won't talk crap about any other channel, but I'm just gonna say this is the best skeptic/debate channel in the whole world with the best hosts. That's it.
Kind of just pop that in there at the end there just to make it. Thanks so much, Jimmy.
I felt it was.
This is mine, I think. 999 from Jimmy Snow again. Oh yes, don't miss our new shows launching next week. You should read this one this time.
Hey,
I've read
don't
it twice.
miss our new shows launching next week. Skeptalk on Mondays and HOSTility on Tuesdays. Forrest and Shannon, whoever those guys are, will launch Skeptalk, and Jimmy will be joined by a much-needed sex coach on HOSTility on Tuesday. Also, by the way, Jimmy, what did one Frenchman say to the other?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't speak French.
Nice.
What sound does a French jackhammer make?
Oh! That's good.
All right, so I think what we need to do is like a new show on Sundays, in addition to the Sunday show, that is just 30 minutes of dad jokes.
Yeah, that's what I need. Another project. Thanks.
Just some levity in the world. How hard can it be to go live and tell dad jokes for 30 minutes? Be like, hey, what's the last thing that goes through a bug's mind when it hits the windshield? It's asshole. $10 from Dante Verona. It was very good to meet you, Matt. You too as well, Dante. I had so much fun. It was so nice to finally get to meet you. Likewise to Aron Ra. By the way, it's official. I totally now have street cred. Woot. I can appreciate the cred. Yeah, Dante was there at the debate con.
Blind Limey, pardon me, sent $10 to say, just to get Forrest on record that if he were still alive, he'd like to debate. Yes, he'd like to debate Mr. Rogers as a Presbyterian pastor and see how he reconciles the immoral parts of his faith. Yes, this is something that I said a little while ago to somebody, to this person, I presume, when I was down in Austin. They asked if I would debate Mr. Rogers because he's just so unassailably nice of a person. How could I possibly get in a debate with him? And I'm like, dude, like Mr. Rogers was one of my heroes. He still is. He's a fantastic person. The dude is an absolute icon. And he was also, as far as I know, deeply Christian. And I don't think he ever took the time to think about it. I think like most Christians, he just was taught that that's a good way to be and that it's a good message and all these things. And being such a deeply good person, he just ran with the thing that he thought was good. But I would absolutely like to ask him how he feels about those things and if he would be interested in, maybe changing his message and his perspective and his outreach and his work a little bit to maybe be more inclusive and bring more people in. Because I don't know if he ever did anything that was like for the LGBT community or for atheists or for any other counterculture out there. But I know for sure his work against racism was monumental.
Yep.
and beautiful. And so if he can soak his feet in a pool with his black mailman friend, and if he can teach every person in the world that I like you just the way you are, I would love to have the opportunity. I know it'll never happen, but I would have loved to have the opportunity to sit down with them and debate them on these things and see if we can get the same love for all the communities that need it now. That'd be radical.
Yep.
This is how I feel
completely
about Weird
agree.
Al.
Yeah, I would also do that with Weird Al.
Yeah.
And also the Reverend Barry Lynn, who's the former head of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, who I thought was a wonderful person. And I actually told him, because we both spoke at a Secular Student Alliance event on church state separation. He spoke right before me, and I got up and I said that while I have a mission of hopefully helping anyone and everyone stop believing in God, I was going to save Barry Lynn for last because I needed an actual God-believing pastor who agreed with me on church state separation to work alongside me on that mission. So his soul, as non-existent as it was pretty safe for then.
Reverend Warnock, I'd put in that category too. That dude's just a good guy.
Yep.
He seems nice. I don't know too much about him, but he seems really nice.
$20 from Aaron Scroggins. Hey guys,
Oh, it's you.
question. If science is a method of investigation which continuously evolves and skepticism is the critique of claims that don't have any evidence yet, should one be skeptical even in the scientific method? Thanks. Yes, and skeptical of skepticism. The problem is that this comes up a lot as if it's a gotcha. Are you skeptical of your skepticism? Yes, I am. And my skepticism continually reproves itself as useful and reliable at the highest possible conceivable level. And the same has been true for science. There's nothing that has been more consistently reliable than the scientific methods, which is why the only thing that has ever proven science wrong in the history of the world is better science.
Absolutely. Like, that's the thing. Like, the first thing you should do is just check to see if you're learning something from a good source, if what you're learning is reasonable, so on. Like, when you're first getting into science, that's the first question you should ask. And it just so happens that you'll probably come up with the same answer as everybody else. I hear this a lot. A lot of people will say something like, I think I mentioned this before. You question everything, but you don't question evolution. You don't question the age of the earth. You don't question this, that, the other. If you question those, you come up with the same answer. That's why we why they work.
I'll question it again. Hey, Forrest, you think evolution is a reliable model to explain the diversity of life on Earth?
It's insanely reliable. Yeah, it's so good. We have mountains of evidence. We have no evidence against it. It seems to be the best thing that we have. The countless experiments proving it, the literal direct observations of it. It's the best thing we got. Yeah, absolutely. $106.66 from Stevo66 just says, thanks.
Aron says he wishes he could get on shows like this.
I know. I replied to him with a smiley face. I said, keep working, you'll get there. But I put a smiley face on it, and the smiley face bug got me.
Damn.
I can't imagine it'll be much longer, and there will be an Aron on a show like this, if not this exact show.
No, it's Skeptalk. Aron's one of the hosts of Skeptalk, and will be the host on December 5th.
I knew that, but I didn't think you were ready to announce it yet. So.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I fucked it up.
Get Aron in here right now. Send him the link. Get him in here at this moment. Put him on the spot.
$106 for just the word thanks, though. Steve-O, thank you.
Yeah, Stevo66. I like the fact that Stevo66 is 106.66. Thanks. You're incredibly welcome, and thank you for your generosity.
Is this for you? I think you're supposed to read it.
They're addressing you, so I'll let you do it.
$10 from CyberHex. Love that. Forrest, please show us the lizard, I think, on the top shelf above your head. Best do on YouTube. Happy Dinosaurs with Wings Day, everybody. I love that. I can't take it down because I've actually affixed it to the shelf thing there so that it doesn't fall over. But that is a green iguana. Green iguanas have one of the easiest scientific names to remember. It's iguana. And this was actually a gift given to a friend of mine who defleshed it and gave it to me and pinned it in this box. That's somebody that I used to work with. So it's a rough guy. But yeah, it's a little green iguana. His legs aren't great, and he's still got a little bit of meat on the tail. She got it partially defleshed and tried to clean it up, and she did a great job, all things considered. But yeah, that's what one of their skeletons look like. Dumbass little diapsid looking thing. Oh my God, they're weird. Iguanas are great. They're either assholes or they're just like the most loving creatures in the world. I used to take care of a whole pile of them, and I had this one named Panama, and every time I would open the door to their thing to feed them, she would hop up upon me and like crawl up my body, and she would just want to like hang out here and just get snacks. Little monster. Love them. Got a million iguana stories. I'm going to stop. They're great.
I'm looking up. There's a species that I'm going to get soon. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know how soon. And it's parthenogenic. And it's related to the agamas. I actually rattled off the species during the debate the other day. But it's It's on my short list because not only are the butterfly agamas are gorgeous. This isn't the same thing, but it's a rough kin to them, and it's an entirely female parthenogenic species. And I'll probably get I'll get a few of them, and then we just get more of them. They just make them more.
It sounds like those whiptail lizards.
Whiptail lizards are from the United States and are parthenogenic.
Right. They're entirely female.
Those are not the ones I'm talking about. I'm going to look them up.
Okay,
Here, you read super chats. I'll look it up.
Okay, cool. $9.99 also from Shannon MC. Sick with COVID, dumping her money into this show. Make better decisions, Shannon. Can someone EL15 where the link is to be a supporter of the channel? Is that like I don't know what that is. I don't see it in the description. It's hiding from me. Fucking I hope you can find the link because that's what we need on this channel. We need more supporters.
So first of all, you can click become a member, and then right at the top of the description is how to become a patron. And we're currently working on the Patreon benefits. It's going to be like exclusive merch, exclusive channels on a recently refreshed The Line Discord, or in the current state of being refreshed. And on occasion you'll get to hang out with hosts and stuff, which I haven't told the hosts yet, but we'll find out.
Snap. Explain like I'm 5 is what that EL15 means, or ELI5, I guess it is. Can someone explain like I'm 5 where the link is? I thought that was some weird code. I thought she was saying like, can someone else explain, and it got messed up. It makes so much sense. I'm an old man and I don't understand the computer lingo.
I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, but Leiolaepus ingevantri is a species of lizard that's all female, reproducing clonally. Species named after a Vietnamese herpetologist, and I think that it originates in. Well, I'm not going to say. I just know that I want a parthenogenic lizard, and I have the ability to get one or some, because we're going to get several of them. Unfortunately, while I generally only get reptiles that are captive bred, these are not bred in captivity enough for that to be a possibility. But the nice thing is since they reproduce parthenogenically, if I get a couple of them, I'm going to end up with some captive bred ones.
What's really cool about some of those captive bred species, especially, I know whiptail lizards are like this, and I think like there's a few of them that are the same way. They are 100% female, they reproduce parthenogenically, and yet they still have gender roles in terms of sexual reproduction. So like in whiptail lizards in the American Southwest, they will have like one of them will play the role of the female in courtship, and one of the other females will come up and mount her and do some gyrations, and without that, the receiving quote female will not start the production of fertilized eggs. So
Aron
even though
explained
they
this
can
exact
still
thing.
fertilize.
Aron explained this exact thing to me after the debate.
It's so fucking cool, dude. Like, you still have gender roles in nature, and there's a clear one. It's radical.
That's one of the reasons why I'm not getting the whiptails and I'm getting the ingevantri, because I want to observe their process and see how it's different from whiptails. But $50 from Elizabeth Chris. Forrest looks so happy when he's explaining anything. Yes.
The only thing better than learning science is teaching it, dude. I was going to tell you about brain anatomy and how it relates to hate earlier on. I'll do that later, and then we'll make a whole other show about it.
Do it next time, or Monday, or the next show.
Yeah.
But also, clearly, we all love a captive audience and would fucking talk about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches if enough people would listen.
I wouldn't, but I'd talk about mayonnaise, relish, and peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah, you're welcome for that.
Because that was freaking gross.
That's right.
I was going to say, thank God you said it's gross. I was going to say, is that a real thing? Please, no.
Oh, yeah, they made me eat it.
kind of liked it.
But she's kind of likes me, so her taste is suspect anyway.
I'm glad you said it.
$10 from Quagma TV. If you know of Clint, do you know of Russ from Quaramax Pets? He's been in vids with Clint, and I've been in Russ's vids, and he's literally my next door neighbor. Well, that's radical. Yeah,
I
awesome.
don't.
I watched his video for a long time.
I watch a lot of reptile stuff, and it's entirely possible that I've seen Russ, and I will go look up his channel. As we go, I'm at reptile conventions, actually probably half of the weekends over the last 3 or 4 months, and there will be more of that. And I've met so many people, and it's been incredibly therapeutic. Even if we never make money, which we're going to make money, but even if we never made money, I just love doing this so much. I love doing this. I also love doing, raising reptiles and stuff. But thanks, Quagma TV.
Somebody's talking about
200. Is that
I'm looking at like where the nearest restaurant is. I can get burgers later.
You got color bars, my dude.
Yep, you got color bars again. I think that's Swedish Corona.
You should know, by the way, I bought the face cam that you told me to buy, Jimmy, and it'll be here soon. So the next shows won't have this problem.
Did you get standard?
Yes, your
or 4K?
camera is resetting and it pops up. Your camera's resetting and it'll pop up like the stuff that's display on there. Anyway, Nasty Cold keeping me awake. Let me catch you live. Many thanks for the years of education and entertainment. As a lifelong atheist in a secular and very atheist country, I find many callers' myopic religious paradigm strange. I find it strange, and I grew up here. I really am. By the way, as Aron and I are in competition, kind of, he says he's looking for a Texas Indigo and wants to know if anybody has one. And I'm going to say right now we're tied at 19 snakes. Until one of my snakes gives birth or I get to 20, nobody give him a Texas Indigo because then he's winning. Why would you do that? In all seriousness, if you have a line on a Texas Indigo snake, please contact Aron Ra. He'd love one.
It's $10.01 from Anthony Slyman, or Slyman. Hey Forrest, really like your Light of Evolution series. Keep up the good work, but thank you so much for watching. That series is a huge passion project. I'm very happy with how it's turning out. Episode 3, I had to edit it like overnight. Like I edited the whole thing in 16 hours in one sitting because I just had to get it cranked out because I had to fly to do 2 different events. So if you watch carefully, there's one part where I should have zoomed the camera in between 2 takes, and I didn't because I like to zoom in when I make a strong point. There's one part where I show a picture of the wrong species of mole, and there's one typo, and I hate it, and I hate it so much, and it bothers me. I've worked so hard on that series, and there's 3 mistakes in one episode. So feel free to go watch that and lampoon me in the comment section, and then watch it again so I get extra ad revenue.
Well, Aron decided he was going to piss off Arden and just announced that his 20th snake arrives next week. It's a Brazilian rainbow boa. So he's got the Brazilian rainbow boa that Arden wants. He's got the false water cobra that I want. He's got the clown ball python that I'm going to need to breed with, but maybe we'll work out some trades or something. Although I'm going to get one, but that's fine. You can get number 20 and number 21 and number 22. And then when we have babies, and we go from having 20 something to 60 something, I'll be ahead then.
Snake Fight 2022.
Grats though. Brazilian rainbow boas are gorgeous. I can't wait till we have some too. That's on the breeding list right after hognose probably. Anyway, Forrest, can you please speak to whether evolution is still affecting humans? Seen a few prominent atheists say it no longer does, which I'm pretty sure is just wrong. For example, melanin D3 trade-off. Thanks. That's from Jeffrey Ulrich, and thank you so much for the $10.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I don't know who these prominent atheists you're speaking of are. I would love to know, but like yeah, it absolutely is. So there's this cool thing called a Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, which is the only time when evolution could theoretically stop. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is something that it doesn't exist in reality, but these 2 great scientists came up with this idea of like how you could theoretically stop evolution. And you would need a very large population that is living in isolation, so there's no gene flow from anywhere else, that are reproducing completely randomly. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. So if you have, you would still have genetic drift within the population moving around, and that could technically still lead to some evolution, but like if you just have stagnant selection pressures, stagnant population, no genes flowing in, completely random reproduction, you could theoretically stop evolution in this population and have them just stay exactly as they are perpetually. But in all other circumstances, which is to say reality, as long as there's reproduction, as long as there's differential modes of reproduction and or fertility and mortality, as long as there's selection pressure, there's always going to be evolution, period. And as far as what's trending in humans, you can't predict speciation based on evolutionary trends, but you can track evolutionary trends. So like, I couldn't possibly say what will we evolve into next. That makes no sense. But I can tell you that we are getting taller as a species because of increased access to consistent nutrition. And we're getting bigger heads because of modern medicine, especially things like cesarean sections, where you no longer have to fit a watermelon out of a cervix the size of a quarter anymore. And so our heads are getting bigger and bigger, and our bodies are getting taller and taller. I'm 6'2", and you can land a small aircraft on my forehead. I am peak human evolution. Look at me. And so that's where we're going, and that's what's still affecting us.
I do believe the actual position that you're going to have amongst atheists and skeptics isn't that nothing is happening. It is that it is highly likely that there will be no future descendants of Homo sapiens which aren't Homo sapiens.
I
can fix it, Matt. You don't like it this way? Here we go. What up?
No. I just promised somebody in chat that the next time your disembodied voice came on, I would lip sync to it live.
Oh, okay. I got you. I've
done
do it
it
for
before.
money.
Yeah, if anybody said that dumb shit, then they would be, misrepresenting the concept of what a species is and ignoring the fact that we are still already a subspecies. We are Homo sapiens sapiens. And if you go back just a couple 100,000 years or maybe closer to 150, then you have archaic Homo sapiens, which you would totally classify differently. And also, what are we talking about? Are we talking about Homo sapiens sensu strictu or Homo sapiens sensu latu? You know what I mean? Like, it kind of depends on how we're doing that. So there's a whole bag of shit that deals with speciation. And like, we can continue calling ourselves Homo sapiens, but it doesn't change the fact that evolution is still happening.
Right. I think that's the thing that they would get to, is that because we're the ones that are defining everything, we will always be Homo sapiens sapiens, because we'll just define everything else as other, no matter how much we've changed. Can you imagine the day in a million years when somebody has a big science fight saying, look, we are not the same as we were when we were first Homo sapiens sapiens. We need to change this. And hopefully they'll do it peacefully.
Yep. Peacefully. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Really good question.
Where are we at, Jimmy?
1999 from Strobes. Or Strubies, a super fan of you both and excited about the Forrest Shannon show. Thank you so much. Random question. What happened to the counter-apologetic website that Matt made / references in old episodes, Iron Chariots or something like that? Congrats on the wedding, Forrest. Thank you so much. I'm a married man.
Woot. Yes, congratulations. Iron Chariots was taken over by someone else for a while, and essentially the hosting got taken down, and I don't know if or where there was a backup. And so, yeah, it's just dead. It's unfortunate. There was a lot of good stuff there, a lot of work. I don't have a backup. I had stopped managing it for many years. So yeah, it's probably not coming back. And the nice thing is that I think what Iron Chariots was great, and I would love to have a backup. And there's some Wayback Machine stuff that we've pulled off and saved. But I think that YouTube has taken over that place, where there's just so much good information, and it's so much easier than going to a wiki. I'm disappointed that some things that I wrote there that were kind of important, I thought, are no longer there. But, we're doing other good stuff, and I've got a decade of stuff on my YouTube. So
sounds like some kind of deconstruction factory channel should create a new, better website version of that. If people would pay to support us in a way that we can hire web designers. I don't know.
There's this, if you're interested, this is called the Counter Creationism Handbook by Mark Isaac. This was published out of the University of California. I don't know when this was published. Let me see. This is in 2007. This was published in 2005 and then updated in 2007. And it's a great little flip chart for, like, you can pick all sorts of stuff. And they've got good citations in here. They've got like all sorts of cool counter apologetics, specifically dealing with creationism and challenges to it. So I love this one. It was a fun one that I found at a used bookstore once. So I would recommend that guy if you want something that's actually like you can flip to rather than just searching things on the internets.
And the fastest, best website that I use is just Google Index to Creationist Claims. That is an incredibly robust, cataloged, each topic has its own alphanumeric code. But
good stuff. This is 200
we did
Swedish kroner. Oh, we did? No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did. Lifelong atheist, secular various could I find college myopic religious paradigm strange? And I said I find it strange too.
You're right. Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
My system had it still in without a little green mark, so I threw it in.
20 of the regular dollars, the good old American dollars from Jeff Meager. 2 legends. Thank you, Will, for teaching reason and skepticism in a world that needs it now more than ever. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I wholeheartedly agree.
1369 Canadian from Rebuswind. Thank you so much. As a biologist, I learned many things from Forrest, especially on science education. I wouldn't be a skeptic without Matt. So here's some fake currency from Canada from our real teachers from the line. Thank you so much. It may not be long before your currency is the real one and ours is the fake one. We'll see.
UK's the one becoming fake right now. That shit's getting embarrassing. True. You're almost as devalued as we are.
Yeah.
$10 from Sarah Atlas Die. I would love to have you hang up on me someday, Matt. However, I never have anything interesting to ask that would make for a good entertainment or info. I am great at listening and observing. Love you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And I'm sure that that's not true. Every time and this is not an exaggeration, every single time someone has told me how uninteresting they are or how little they have to say, if I just ask them a question or two, all of a sudden I find that I'm more interested in what they said than I would have ever suspected, and than they are. But
it's the people who think they're real interesting at first that you got to watch out for.
Yeah. You know who thinks he's real interesting is that jackass that stormed my debate the other night, and he's absolutely the opposite of interesting.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Oh, there's more. Here, I'll do this one. Sarah also said in, and thank you again. Forrest, I love your videos, and I'm excited for your addition to the line. I have some of your merch and love wearing it.
Well, thank you so much. I am also wearing some of my merch underneath my Patreon hoodie. Got that guy. This is my favorite T-shirt in the whole world. I'm one of those crazy
I'm not even wearing any merch.
Wears his own merch. You're not wearing.
I'm not wearing any merch
right
at all.
I'll send you a Valkai Labs T-shirt. It'll be $20.
Yeah, I was like, you will, huh? All right. Thanks, Sarah.
Before I put up the next one, I just want to say what I've really liked about tonight's super chat thing is after each one, there's been a greater conversation had. You've really expanded on each one and added your own thoughts. And I just thought that was great. So I just wanted to say that before I put this next one up.
Okay. This one's yours.
I can just hate it.
Go ahead, read this one, Jimmy.
Paid $10 to say something very wrong.
Yeah, he's not a legend. He's real. I mean, he just zoomed in on himself right there. He can't be a legend if he's real.
What a weird thing to say. God, that face. Jesus.
$10 from Jeff Meager. Thank you so much, Jeff. Jimmy is more than a legend. I want to do like a Billy Joel song. He can kill with a smile. He can move.
I knew it was better to just be silent.
$10 from Duck Detail. Matt, I used to be an Apologia Radio Jeff Durbin fanboy. I'm thankful for your work. The more I examine God and the Bible, the further away from it I get. And that means that you're probably investigating it more honestly than most of the people I've actually debated. So awesome. Thank you, Duck Detail.
Happy that you're free, man. $10 from Elizabeth Chris. Heart evidence / science stuff. Me too, dude. Me too. Yeah.
Cool beans.
Love that.
$49.99. Holy crap, Nicole. Thank you so much. From Nicole K. Erbson. Hi, guys. Love you both greatly. Forrest, random question. The white spots on the back of tiger's ears, are they false eye spots to protect them from attack? What animal would they be afraid of? Also, I'm the one who drew your last fan art. Much love.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for the fan art. Dude, I posted your fan art on my Instagram, and I got like more like people chiming in on that than like any that I've ever posted. Just you did an amazing, absolutely exceptional job. And if I ever like, I want to use that for something someday. And if I ever do, I'll write to you and I'll pay you money for the commission of it, and I'll use it on like a banner or something like that. But as far as tiger eyes are concerned, and the spots in there, yeah, those are false eyes. And there's a few reasons to have those besides just being afraid of attack, just throwing off potential things. But like, I bet we could actually find, let's do it together. Let's just look really quick and just try to find if there's a cool thing. Tiger ear eye spots. Because there are, especially when they're babies, like it's a good idea to keep them away from predation from above, like predatory birds and things. And by the way, when you have something that like a defensive camouflage like that, that's like mimicking something, that is called self-mimicry, which sounds dumb because they're not mimicking themselves, they're mimicking something else. But like, it's a cool thing about it. Yeah, no, it is just for potential predators. So saith a couple of things here. I can look into more details, but it is for animals trying to sneak up on them. And I'm betting that's especially important when they're babies. Although I wonder why that doesn't change as they get adults, because a lot of times you have ontogenetic changes where something will change slowly over the course of its life. Like there are certain snakes, like those green tree boas, they're born yellow and they slowly turn red and then they turn green. And so they look like different fruits that are of the right sizes of like the shape or the size of the snake. It's so freaking cool, dude. You can also go, let's do scholar.google.com and just look up tiger ear eye spots. Other fun fact while I do this, there's only one actual species of tiger in the world, Panthera tigris. There's just a lot of subspecies of those, like Malaysian tigers or Panthera tigris jacksoni, I believe. Yeah, so this is from Dua et al. From the British Journal of Ophthalmology. Why? A tiger has eye spots in the back of its ears. It's about to attack its prey, turns its ears towards the prey, and the eye spots, I guess, throw them off. What? The eye spots on the back serve to confuse any predator behind it. So I guess it's to make them better hunters so that other predators don't attack the same prey they're attacking, is what these guys are arguing. Fucking weird, dude. I don't know off the top of my head what this is for, but there's apparently a whole bunch of really cool information out there about it. So there's some fun facts about tigers and some interesting, to our knowledge, research. The first time eye spots have been looking at the ears. They've been better. Eye spot numbers.
Hey, we're 35 minutes over so far there, Forrest.
Sorry, I'll read this whole damn thing. Yeah, but dude. But there's a lot of cool info about there, and you should check it out because it's really fucking dope.
I don't know how many we have left anyway, but $19.99 from Shroud that says $9.99.
Is this some kind of meta paradox? What's going on?
I like it.
It's almost like we have to refund or something. I'll do this.
$10 from All Things Considered. Can Forrest tell us how to figure out the speed of light with cheese in a microwave? Yeah, totally. So what you do is you get a microwave and take the turntable out of there and make sure there's nothing in there that's going to spin at all. So like take the connector of the turntable and everything out, and then get a nice big wide flat baking sheet, something that's microwave safe, so like a glass, whatever. Put that in there, line the bottom up with cheese, or you can do Crisco. If you want to do it that way, you can like just make sure there's an even coating is all that's important. Don't have any thick and thin spots. Even coating of shredded cheese or Crisco, some sort of fat that's solid, and then put it in the microwave at like 50% power just for a little bit of time, just a few seconds, and check on it. Go back and forth. You don't want to overdo it. And what you'll see is when you take it out, eventually it will be melted in perfect little bands. So it'll be melted in these straight bands instead of just being the whole thing melted. This is why you don't want to go too far, because it'll just melt the whole thing. And what you're seeing there is that, remember, microwaves are electromagnetic radiation. They're light. And so this is a wave that goes up and down like this. It's going to have the highest energy potential, what it's putting out, at the peak and the trough, the crest and the trough of that wave. Right in the very center where the nodes are, there's no real energy to impart, right? And so what you're seeing with those bands of melted cheese is the crest and the trough of each wave. So you measure across one band to the next. That is half of the total wavelength. You multiply that by 2. You now have the full wavelength, right? And we know that C is equal to lambda F, which is to say that the speed of light is equal to the wavelength times the frequency. And so you take now the wavelength and you multiply it by the frequency of your microwave in megahertz, I believe, and you come up with 186,000 miles per second, or whatever it would be in metric. You do it all in metric. You get SI in, you get SI out. And that's how you can do it. You can measure the speed of light using a microwave and some cheese or some Crisco, and you just put a measuring tape. You can look up instructions on how to do this in more detail, but make sure your measurements are in centimeters and make sure that you're doing it in megahertz, because it's a lot easier to do the conversions that way. And that's how you do that thing. And you can do that with anybody. Anybody can prove the speed of light in their own kitchen. Pretty cool, right?
That's absolutely terrifying.
But every time you've said prove the speed of light and measure, I've almost jumped in, because there's an incredible Veritaserum video about how it's actually impossible. You can't actually literally measure or prove.
It's Veritasium, not Veritaserum.
Whatever. I'm drunk anyway.
Veritaserum
there we
sounds
go.
like a
I'm not
real
really.
disease.
Not
But like,
near.
yeah,
I want to get through the rest of these super chats so that I
like,
can get roughly equivalent to drunk.
Make sure when you do it, you calculate your percent error, though. Calculate your experimental time minus your theoretical, and then divide that whole thing by 3 times 10 to the 8 or whatever it is.
Go melt
My
cheese.
percent error is 97% right now. It's late. $25 from Jeff G. Random question. How do y'all manage taking things personally and how to not let it affect you as much? I'll tell you this. I'm getting better at not letting things bother me. I just am. I've been consistently under attack from any number of different, people who aren't worth my time for a decade. And it's one of the reasons why I set better boundaries on how I'm going to be treated. And it's one of the reasons why I left the previous organization. And that's how I keep my sanity is I make sure I'm looking out for me. I try to make sure that I'm interacting with the people who also care about looking out for me. And so when there's some jackass on Twitter that's like, I remember in my Twitch stream the other day, there's constantly somebody who'll show up and that they know they're not going to get a message through. So they just create new accounts with names that are like poking at me for, I don't know, my relationship with Arden or some woke position that they wanted to do, whatever it is. They just put it right in the name because they know that I'm the only one who's going to see it and that I'm just going to ban yet another account. And that's what I do. I ban the account and I go right back to doing what I was doing. There are people who just, as much as I wish they were better, they're not worth my time.
Yeah, man, I'm a professional YouTuber, and I talk about science and atheism online, and I do science for a career, and I've been teaching for 10 years. I have a thick skin. You can't. If anybody were to fucking call me out and say a bunch of horrible things about me, I would just say this person clearly doesn't know me very well, because if they did, they'd have more interesting things to complain about. Like that's it.
Most of them aren't that creative anyway. But some of them, it's like this last weekend, this guy's like, "You're a bald atheist." Yes, I am. Is there anything else? How is that a rebuttal to any of this? It's just that was Alex Stein.
Wow.
It's like, oh, you're just a bald atheist and you think evolution's real and we just bang rocks together. And he was doing it. He loves this motion. He was like doing bang rocks together, but he was also doing his homophobic thing of like doing penises boinking together on some others. I mean, what a clown. He's an absolute clown. And I'm better than that. So I'll just move on. Anyway, thanks so much for the super chat.
You can extend to me no insult deeper than I've extended to myself. That's how I'd respond to this.
Precisely.
Yeah. Right?
Love that. Elizabeth Chris sent $10 to ask I would watch Jimmy talk about sandwiches.
Thank you, Forrest. You
He's
didn't have to
there.
say that. Thank you. Oh my God. Wow.
We could have a debate about what our sandwiches and what art. $25 for Jeff G. Random question. We just did that.
Yep.
See, okay, here's the thing. I'm happy for you guys to donate in super chats to compliment Jimmy, but every time you do, he gets distracted and he goes backwards on the super chats instead of forwards on the super chats because he wants to see another message about himself.
For the sake of the show, give Jimmy less money. It's only right.
Oh, Jimmy needs a virtual hug. It'll cost you $10. See, I would watch Jimmy talk about sandwiches too, which is why I'm reading that one again. Thanks, Elizabeth. $10 for Novafire. Hey, Forrest, as an analytical chemist, I really appreciate all the work you do to correct misinformation about what science is and what it's trying to accomplish. Never give up the pursuit. That's a rah.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me because I am not an analytical chemist. I am really good at doing organic chemistry on paper. I suck at doing it in labs. And if you ask me to actually do any kind of analysis on anything, I am dead in the water. So coming from you especially, that means a lot. Thank you. You're a way smarter scientist than I am.
I think just to make this easy, when we get to the last one, Jimmy should just come back in and read the last one and say this is the last one. And then that's good.
That'd be
I already
easy.
had a
That'd be
plan
great.
for that, but all right.
I just trampled on Jimmy's plan.
You'll see.
$20 from Joe Daddy. What's your favorite Star Trek series? I don't have one. I don't watch that.
For the backstory, DS9. In general, TNG, and I was really enjoying Strange New Worlds, but I haven't seen enough of it yet, so I can't say if it's going to enter the favorites. $10 for Charred Faith. I'm desperate to see these rats. That is all. I will work on getting some pictures of both our rats and our rat tubs and the cool ones that are down there. Everything. Well, keep watching because they'll be on our channel, on the other channel, the snake channel, the exotics channel, not the erotic channel. That's only bards.
$20 from Pneumonius Maxim. I've been a science educator and researcher for 30 years, and what you all do is so crazy important for what I do. Thank you. That seriously means the world as well. Thank you so much. Because, like, fucking likewise, bro. Like, I can get up in a dumbass stage or in a stupid video and, like, teach the basics, but having people in the classroom is so, so, so important. So my goal in my career is to prime the pump for you to do the actual hard work. You know what I mean?
$10 for Dustin Sink. Forrest, I love the work you do educating people about science. Thanks for contributing to the cause. Nice.
Hate it. Hey, Dustin Sink, what do lawyers wear when they want to look fancy? They wear lawsuits. You're welcome. $20 from Elizabeth Chris, because we love Jimmy.
There we go.
Out of there, Jimmy Snow. If you could fucking build a machine that could run on smugness, you could power a small city with that face. Jesus.
I'm going to send Jimmy something.
What in the world did I do to deserve that, Forrest? Jesus Christ.
Did you see the smugness on your face?
I was smiling. I was so excited for a compliment and the recognition.
No.
I'm just trying to give you a platform and money, and my God, what did I ever do to you? Anyway, this is the last one. Whoever wants to read it.
Well, good, because I'm going to take a minute to read this. I just sent Jimmy a video. It is being sent right now in Facebook Messenger. And so if you can get it queued up,
give me a moment.
That will be something nice for the people who want to see the rats. Just don't do the audio because I have no idea what audio is on there. $9.99 from Jimmy Snow. don't miss our new shows launching next week. Skeptalk on Mondays and HOSTility on Tuesdays. Forrest and Shannon will launch Skeptalk, and Jimmy will be joined by a sex coach. Wow, I'm shocked. On HOSTility Tuesday. As Jimmy's getting ready to pull up this video, because somebody said they wanted to see the rats, and we're very happy that we actually have several new baby rats. And so there's video footage right here of one of the broods from our doe, or one of our does. We have lots of does. Jimmy will pull that up. In the meantime, for those of you in the U.S. who are actually going to go out and spend time with family tomorrow for Thanksgiving, there's still a lot to be thankful about. And one of the things, since we end up talking about politics on this show more often than not, is that there was not a red wave, and that things turned out, generally speaking, better than expected. And while the Republicans did, in fact, win the House, which is what we predicted all along, the Democrats kept the Senate, and there's options and possibilities. You're going to see a lot more investigations. We're going to have a lot more to talk about. And there's even more, look, Forrest is.
Yeah, that video,
I hate it so
because
much,
that video isn't publicly linked anywhere, I don't have a way with current plugins to download that wouldn't take a minute to get around. So it depends on how long this outro is going to be for me to get it.
Oh.
If you send me like a Google Drive link or something like that instead, it would have worked great. But this is there's nothing built.
Well, let me see if I can do it via sharing my screen.
I just checked, and my new streaming camera will be here on December the 2nd. So the first episode of the new show will be this bad. It'll have all the bars and all the problems. It'll be great.
There we go. I got it. Make me full screen.
Yeah.
So this is me poking around in where one of our rats has a litter of pups. And then you can see the ones down below. Oops. And boom, there's another one right down there. So that's the second litter. We had one litter, and then there was a second litter as well. That is the end of that, which also means we are now at the end of tonight's Hang Up. Thanks, everybody, so much. Please do not forget to tune in to the Transatlantic Call-In Show tomorrow. I don't know. I think it's Katy and Student Dr. Ben. So if you've gotten fed up with your family, there's a good way for you to get revenge on them, or get to feeling like you're around normals again, like you're not in the upside down land or Stranger Things land. Huge thank you to Forrest for doing the show tonight. Everybody take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for your generosity. Tune into the new shows next week. And a huge thanks to Jimmy and our call screener and moderators. I'm really, really genuinely grateful. And I've said before, our Wednesday is my therapy. And so thank you all for joining us. And I'll see you again next week.
Bye.
You guys complimented Jimmy so much.